one day away from the opening of the window that would allow teams to trade players at a reduced cap charge if the player has multiple years and multiple years of dead money left that would accelerate into this year. As of tomorrow, no acceleration. You just take the cap charge you were going to take anyway this year for whatever signing bonus money or other prorated money already was paid. So it's an inducement to engage in trades as of June 2. And for 5 weeks now, we've been monitoring the possibility that Julio Jones will be traded. There still isn't an overwhelming, obvious, this is the team that's going to trade for him, which makes me still think the Patriots are going to come out of nowhere and trade for him. But, we reported over the weekend, Chris, that in league circles, the prevailing thought is the Titans for a second-round pick. That's where Julio Jones is going to go. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. That's just what people believe. But again, you never know when Bill Belichick's going to swoop in out of nowhere and get a deal done that we didn't think he was going to do.
Yeah, this is the common thought. It makes a lot of sense, like we've talked about from both sides, both angles. I understand Julio Jones wanting to go there. They have a real need for him. Like, your point, Mike, there about the Patriots, too. You're right. I don't hold them out of this. First off, hey, John Robinson's the GM for the Titans. He came from New England. There's certain things and formulas and scouting that I think, teams like that, there's a common ground on what they like in players and all those things. I will say this, though. You're right. New England hovering on the outside, as long as the price doesn't get too expensive, they're going to be in this. And I would think second round would be still the conversation where they could swoop in and steal a Julio Jones or do something like that. But, as it stands right now, it seems to be the team I hear the most about from friends in the NFL that seem to think this is going on. But you're right. I don't know anything of like, oh, a deal is imminent or it's right around the corner or, they're really deep into talks. I haven't heard anything like that quite yet. And it doesn't sound like you have either, huh?
And other teams emerged and some receded over the weekend. The Rams were in play. Yeah. I'm told they're definitely out. They don't have a first-round pick until 2024.
Right.
Not that they were going to put a first-round pick on the table, although on that point, too, the report that a first-round pick is part of a package for Julio Jones, most people around the league don't believe that there would be a straight first-round pick for Julio Jones. Someone explained it to me over the weekend that it's entirely possible that there's been an offer made of a first-round pick to the Falcons and Julio Jones and a second-round pick going the other direction, which would make a hell of a lot more sense.
Right.
That team gives up a 1, gets Julio Jones, and receives a 2. It's better for the Falcons to just get a second-round pick for Julio Jones. Yeah, well, we got a first-round pick. So what? You give up a second-round pick to get it, and it may be a high first-round pick next year if the Falcons don't get out of this funk quickly. So I think there was, to the extent that there is a first-round pick that's been mentioned, discussed, offered, it's come with enough conditions, including give us a second-round pick back, that it's not being regarded as a serious offer.
Yeah. Well, I could see that. And I think again that's going to be like the $1 million question as we dive into this Julio Jones stuff. Is just are there going to be more teams involved, and then it's just going to be about kind of the dance of figuring out what makes sense on the chart as far as value and things like that, and then everything you've mentioned over the last few weeks. The contract situation, what they want to do with the money, or like you're talking about, compensation back to the Falcons. Oh, hey, we gave you a first round. That seems to be the thing that teams are going to have to juggle around the most. Definitely. And, when I do look at it, to me, again, I just bring it back to the Tennessee Titans to where it makes the most sense for them to be that team. It does. They're a team that I think we both agree is in the window. They made some big-time adjustments in the offseason as far as, free agency, sign a Bud Dupree to add to the pass rush. They bolstered their secondary. Offense, they need another guy. It can't just be A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry. And I do look at them, and I think you do too, Mike, right, as a team that's in the Super Bowl window, to where this opens the window up even more if you get a guy like Julio Jones to come into town.
And if you get a Julio Jones who is healthy, motivated, determined. And there's a thought out there that that he will be motivated and determined. Now, healthy you can never guarantee. But one of the caveats that whoever trades for Julio Jones needs to keep in mind, and we posted this, I think, yesterday, the thinking is he's going to want a new contract, either through the door or comes out, has a huge 2021, he's going to want it after that. You know, this idea that, hey, you're getting Julio Jones for 3 years, $38 million, it's about $12 million in change per year. No. That's not what you're getting. You're getting Julio Jones maybe for 15.3 this year. After this year, if he does decide to go forward under the terms of his current deal and not say, I want a new contract, if he comes out and has a big year, you're going to have to pay him after this year. That's part of what you have to factor into this.
Yeah, definitely.
Whatever you give up to get him, you're getting a guy, and you're inheriting whatever discontent he may have contractually. And people can say, well, he's making $22 million a year. Well, yeah, but he's got 3 years left at 38. Once a player's already cashed the checks from the front-loaded portion of the contract, they're not thinking I'm getting $22 million a year. They're looking at what they have now going forward and saying, I'm only getting $12 million a year. Something's wrong with this picture.
You gotta factor this in. It's got to be part of the conversation. You're right. I don't know if it's something that it doesn't seem to be like when we had the DeAndre Hopkins trade a few years ago, right, Mike, with the Houston Texans, Arizona Cardinals. One of the first things we heard out of the gate was, hey, one of the reasons we think the Texans are doing this through league circles was DeAndre Hopkins wanted more money. Right, and that was an issue. I haven't heard that yet. I mean, I'm with you, but I don't hear that being like the jump off point for the trade or anything like that. So,
no,
but you're right. I think that
you have to.
Out. You're right.
It's not that he wants more money; he wants out. But once he gets in a new landing spot, he's
got to be worried about it. I know that's where I look at and when I think of that aspect of it, that's where I go into like New England and I think about them when it comes to that stuff, and I just go, well, I can't imagine Bill being happy with that scenario. Oh, like let me just let's get a player here and see how the year goes, and if he does real good, then, oh, man, he's going to hold our feet over the fire and want more money and deal with that and all that crap. And, oh, wait, we just gave a first-round pick or a second-round pick to get you and do all those issues. You know, that is definitely something you're going to have to balance and have a feel for, talking to his agent and getting a feel from Julio Jones before this trade as far as where his mind might be in that conversation.
Hey, and that's the thing, when you don't have a lot of high-end receivers on your team for the past 20 years, you don't have many situations like this where high-end receivers want to be paid. Remember how they dealt with Randy Moss? When he became a free agent after the 2007 season, he became a free agent after that season. They didn't apply the franchise tag. They didn't want to restrain him. They played it the right way, and he ultimately took 3 years, $27 million, which seemed like a lot at the time. It shows you how much the cap's changed since then. But you have to deal with these guys a certain way. And Bill Belichick could look at this situation and say, there's no way out of this maze that doesn't entail blowing our salary structure for a guy who may be happy for 1 year, but come 2022, we're going to have a problem financially. So that's something that definitely needs to be kept in mind. And maybe one of the reasons why there aren't 3 or 4 teams that are jostling and clamoring to try to make this happen.
I think it's a few things, right? I mean, there's that possibility. There's the trade aspect, like we talked about, you know, as far as figuring out all the things that need to be done there, whether it's, you know, the Atlanta paying part of the contract this year, whatever, the value, all of that. His health status, where is he there? Like you've talked about. I mean, listen, I'm with you, Mike. I would bet that he's going to be motivated, new team, new place, you know, be on his A game. But, you know, you still, if you're making a trade for a guy and giving away a first or a second round pick, you don't want a guy that you're looking at going, okay, maybe he's got one more good year left in him and then he's going to fall apart. You know, I think that's what's going to scare people too in this whole conversation. I mean, you just look at the last 3 years of stats and, you know, injuries last year, you see everything fell off to a degree. And we know that's part of his history, and that's going to be scary. That's where I don't know where this goes. And I don't know, where last week I was kind of getting the feeling we were going to get more teams involved in this, and this could, like, raise the price. Now it's like we sit here and I go, I don't know really if anybody's going to really ever get involved here other than maybe 1 or 2 teams that we're talking about. And is anybody else going to really dive in here and do anything substantial?
As to the hamstring situation, This is another complicating factor, and it's a good news, bad news thing for whoever would trade for Julio Jones. There is this thought, and he wouldn't be the first and he won't be the last, that he could have played more than he played last year, but it was a manifestation of his discontent with the organization. So that hamstring injury, that if you were perfectly happy and everything was great, you'd find a way to play through it.
Right.
All of a sudden, that hamstring injury becomes something that you choose not to play through because you're not happy with your situation. It's an easy way to show internally things aren't good. So, and again, he's not the first, wouldn't be the last. And the good news is maybe he's a lot healthier. Maybe this is like Randy Moss in 2007. Right. Everyone thought he was washed up. The bad news is that's part of what you're getting.
Right.
If you trade for Julio Jones, you better make him happy, because if he's not and he's got a little bit of a hamstring tweak, he's not going to play.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have him on the field.
Yeah.
You just have to understand that going in. Seahawks entered the chat over the weekend. There was an ESPN report that they have talked to the Atlanta Falcons about this. Chris, when we did the draft last Thursday of ideal destinations, I picked the Seahawks. One of the reasons is, hey, if you want to placate Russell Wilson, go get Julio Jones, which makes me think they probably won't go get Julio Jones because they don't seem to be inclined to placate Russell Wilson.
No, they don't. It never seems to be like the driving force, that's for sure. I mean, I'm not surprised to hear the Seahawks involved in this, because I feel like the Seahawks always get involved. They're one of those teams that always seems to kind of dip their toe in the water as far as these type of conversations go, just to see where it's at. Because they are, again, another one of those teams we talk about a lot that, you know, they're always looking to push their chips in the middle of the table and go, we're all in. We're trying to win the Super Bowl this year. And I respect that about them. But, I mean, as much as, like, I guess I need to see their offense and how it works. Because what I would tell you right now, from what I've seen the last few years, I don't even know how Julio Jones would work up there. You know, I mean, there's times, Mike, I feel like we talked about this a lot during the year, where I'd go, like, they can't even get the ball to DK Metcalf in certain games. They can't even find ways to do that. Now, I know they got a new offensive program up there, and they're going to be different, but it just doesn't seem like the offense that's been capable of spreading the wealth that way. That's where I'm not sure if it makes sense to me that way either.
Yeah, look, I agree. It's going to be hard to do. You better have a plan. And as you said last week, Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator, a lot of three receiver stuff there.
Is,
but you've got to make it work. And I don't see Pete Carroll signing off on this idea of we're going to have a high-flying aerial offense. He wants to run the ball, and now all of a sudden we have to keep DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Julio Jones happy. And we've got Russell Wilson at $35 million a year, and Julio Jones is going to want a new contract after this year.
Yeah, I don't
if
see
not
it
sooner. And DK Metcalf has the window open on a new contract for him after this year.
Boom! You just laid it out. That's why it's not happening. You just laid it all out. The Russell Wilson deal. Julio might want more money. DK's coming very soon. They're already paying Tyler Lockett. I think we just talked that out right there. That's why that I would be shocked if it happens, just for the reasons you just explained.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.